Ruben Amorim is the best sporting coach I've seen ever. And to be honest, he's one of my favourite all-time managers across all of football, I suppose. And of course, there's a bias element to that as well. But what he was able to do at Sporting is just, I think, short of a miracle. So this is my sort of thank you to him. Before we get into that though, I would be amiss without saying thank you for what you've been able to do for me recently. I've doubled my subscribers on my last video. I've hit record number of views, record number of watch hours. So to that, from the bottom of my heart, I say thank you very much. You've left such nice comments as well. It has been fantastic. And I'm here to try and, you know, provide some more insight on Amorim off the back of that last video, but also just sort of to say thank you to him for all he's done to me. And the direction of this channel is going to change. It's going to get away from the sort of the gaming topic and speak about League of Portugal, Sporting, everything about that league. Because I think I can definitely sort of put my sort of analysis on it. I'm not no expert. I'm not a journalist, not anything like that. I'm not a tactical either. I'm just a guy, right? So, you know, it's just a football fan's opinion, I suppose, of League of Portugal, a league I've watched religiously for the last sort of 15, 20 years, as much as I can remember. So yeah, this video is a thank you to Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim is the reason that I can have this on my chest. And what that is a Champions patch that you get for winning the league, basically. And I said it last video, there was a time where I honestly didn't think I'd see one of these in my lifetime. The 15-16 season broke me as a professional football fan. And then 17-18 broke me even more. I was pretty close to giving up football altogether, watching the way Sporting imploded on itself. It was just something out of a horror film. And it really affected my love for football at the time as well. You know, I wasn't planning to sort of ruin my weekends and ruin my weekdays by watching a team, a bunch of players that didn't really care. You could say it was a team, but it wasn't really a team. The players were, you know, there for the big money, and it seemed like they didn't care. They weren't fighting for the badge on the shirt. And then, yeah, 2020 came along and Amorim was hired as coach, and I'll be the first to admit, I thought he was going to flop, 100%. He only managed 10 weeks. Prior to joining Sporting, he was a record high fee for manager in the Portuguese league, 10 million euros in a club that was already in a lot of debt and, you know, said they had no money. And that was sort of the final roll of the dice for Varandas & Co., who is the current Sporting president and was the Sporting president at the time. It was the last roll of the dice and it paid off. But at the time, no one thought it would have done. Not only was he someone who only managed 10 weeks in total in management, he was a former Benfica captain. That would be like the equivalent of signing Arsenal signing Spurs' captain, signing, I don't know, like Harry Kane as a manager or something like that, or Spurs signing Jack Wilshere, for example, if that were ever to happen. It was just something that was met with absolute scrutiny. And at the time, to be fair, it was valid. We had put a gamble on a manager who was unproven and someone who was, you know, an asset to our biggest rival, was a captain for our rivals, and obviously that meant that whenever he played Sporting, he wanted to beat us, he wanted to ruin us. He was happy to do so as a player. So coming in as a manager, it was a cause for concern. But quickly those foundations were changed, and that's due to Amorim. In his first press conference, he hit a quote which is now sort of a generational quote among Sporting fans. He said, "People keep saying, no, what if it doesn't go well? What if it doesn't go well?" His quote was, "Well, what if it does go well?" And that was him. That sort of sums up who he is. In the face of adversity, he was like, you know what, it could go wrong, but you know, I am here to try and steady the ship and turn Sporting into what it should be, and that is force in Europe and what we had been in the 90s and 80s, and not really for the 2000s and 2010s where we were finishing 7th in the league and we were losing to teams in Europa League qualifying like Videoton, who are now a team that don't even exist. It was a chore to be a Sporting fan at times, and don't get me wrong, sometimes it still is as well. But Amorim had made it bearable, made it watchable. He made it fun to be a Sporting fan, and yeah, he single-handedly turned the club around. It's a fact. Whether you like Amorim or you don't, or you like Sporting you don't, you can pinpoint the exact moment that Amorim got hired, how Sporting turned into what it should be. And that is a powerhouse, not just in Portugal, but also shown it in Europe as well. I know I alluded to it a lot in the last video, but he came in and he said, you know what? Anyone who doesn't fit the mold, anyone who doesn't try hard in training, go. Anyone that doesn't want to adapt to my system can go. That's what he did. He got rid of players like Rafael Camacho, who was supposed to be a promising up-and-coming star for Liverpool. Transfer for Sporting that summer for 4.5 million the summer before Amorim came in, and was one of our highest earners at the club. But Amorim said, look, if you're not willing to train, not willing to play, go. Same with Thiago Ilori, who is someone who was not liked by the Sporting fans, so we took that one as a result. He came in and said, you know what, Thiago Ilori, you're not good enough to be a centre-back in my system. Go. You're also one of the highest earners in the club. And not jumping too far ahead, a few seasons later, he got rid of players that were fan favourites. Islam Slimani was a guy that Sporting fans loved, respected. He scored a number of goals. He transferred to Leicester and made us loads of money. He was a great player and a great sort of servant to the club. And he fell out with Amorim because Slimani didn't want to train hard. He didn't want to be a backup to Paulinho. And Amorim said, look, if you're not willing to fit to my systems and you want to go into business for yourself, then you can go as well. And there were some others as well. You've got Idrissa Doumbia, who was on high wages and was quite a big signing. You have loan signings that were there, like Jesse Rodriguez and Yves Balassi. He literally told them, you know what, return to your parent clubs because you're not in my vision. You're not in my plans. You're not going to make it here. Go back. Go to your parent clubs. Try and find another solution. And then sending those players back. And then he looked at the B team. And people say, you know, he had a generational B team. He was lucky. But in that same season, we had 3 different managers. We had Marcel Kaiser, we had Leonardo Ponte, and we had Silas. None of them saw the quality that was in the B team at the time. Nuno Mendes, who is now, in my opinion and opinion of many, one of the best left backs in the world. He's obviously quite injury prone, but still, we had guys like Gonzalo Inacio, who's been Sporting starting centre back for the last 4 years. Eduardo Quaresma, who's had a great time at Sporting. Guys like Thiago Tomas. You had guys like Renato Vega, who now plays at Chelsea. To be fair, Amorim didn't call him up, but I'm just using that as an example. And a few others I'm sure I'm missing. Luis Maximiano, who was the goalkeeper as well. There's so many people that were just in the B team that Amorim said, look, these are the guys I want. These guys are good enough to play. And getting rid of everyone that was sort of there because of their name. No disrespect to Balassi or Jesse Rodriguez. They'll be better footballers than I will ever be and ever dream of being. But it felt like they were just signed on name value. Everyone knows Yannick Balassi. Everyone knows Jesse Rodriguez. Everyone knows what their careers were like. When they were brought in, it just didn't match what Sporting wanted. And, you know, they were brought in, I think, just on name value. And Amorim said, look, I don't care what your name is. I don't care how storied your career is in that aspect. But, you know, you're going if you don't fit a part of my vision. And obviously the tactic was a big thing as well. We never played a 3-back before. It was always sort of a 4-3-3 or something like that. And yeah, the 3-back came in. He trusted young players, Quaresma, Inacio, and he had time too as well to sort of mould them players. That season when he joined, it was the COVID season, like the actual COVID season from like 1920. He had, I think, 2-3 months of working with those guys, and the season was already done. So it was like, okay, I'm going to integrate these youth players for next season because that's my plan, to integrate youth players and see what we can do. And these players came in, they performed well towards the end of the season. We still finished 4th, unfortunately. And that was it for that season. And then obviously the 2021 season is a great season in a horrible circumstance, right? So COVID obviously took the lives of many, and lockdown took the lives of many as well. But Sporting made that bearable. I couldn't imagine if Sporting were bad during that lockdown season, what would have been for a lot of Sporting fans and myself, you know. Being, you know, what we had as a club at the time was built from scratch, again, from Ruben Amorim, as I've said before. But, you know, he brought in players that were in league. We didn't have a lot of money to spend. We made that money from Bruno Fernandes, but a lot of it wasn't, you know, available to spend on transfer market. We had to pay debts. We had to pay clubs that we owed money to and agents we owed money to. There wasn't a lot of money, but we managed to work around it. We brought in Pedro Gonçalves in that first season, who now is a Sporting legend, no doubt about it at all. He brought in guys like Nuno Santos, again, played over 150 times for Sporting, 2-time league champion. Brought in guys like Adan, Fedal, who were sort of towards the tail end of their careers and free agents. And Amorim said, you know what, these guys are good enough to play in their teams. It's a low risk, they don't cost anything. And, you know, they're coming in to try and improve the team, and they did. He brought in João Mario on loan, who of course, didn't end up to be a sort of great story ending for João Mario. Of course, he went to Benfica and ended up being their captain in a few games for them as well. And, it didn't turn out well, but in that season, João Mario was fantastic. And João Mario has Ruben Amorim to thank for his career going the way it has now, because we saved him. Amorim saved him from a lone hell of just going out on loan to Lokomotiv Moscow. He was at West Ham. He was stuck in that loan cycle, and Amorim said, "You know what? I'm going to bring you back, and we're going to make you into the midfielder you were when he left." And he did that. And João Mario sort of spat in his face. This video's not about João Mario, so forget it. But anyway, he was just one of the players he brought in as well. Guys like Paulinho, you see the shirt there, one of my favourite all-time players at Sporting. Brought him in for a club record fee in January when we thought we could win the league. We just needed a bit more firepower. And Paulinho was the one who scored the winning goal to seal us the title. There's other players in there. João Pereira, who's going to be the current B team, the new Sporting manager, who's the current B team manager. He was brought in by Amorim to be a locker room leader, as was Antunes as well. These old players who were former Portuguese internationals were there to guide the young players like Inácio and Quaresma and Thiago Tomás and all of these other players. He was there to guide them, to say, look, we can do this for you. They weren't playing that much, Antunes and João Pereira, but that's what they were there for. They're sort of locker room leaders, and that's what they become. And Amorim did that, and that's how the title came in. Coates as well. Amorim saved his career. No respect to Coates, you see the shirt up there as well. So just to give a bit of backstory, that shirt right there was the shirt I wore when Sporting won the league. I went to the Sporting Cafe in London, because there is one of them. And that's a shirt I wore, and I framed it, because I didn't think we'd maybe see it again. I was not an optimist. Being a Sporting fan, you can't be optimistic. It's true. Like, you never know what's around the corner. So that's framed with the train ticket in there as well. But he saved Coates' career, put him in a free back. Coates definitely 100% a Sporting legend. 2 league titles and multiple other trophies as well under Amorim. He saved his career and saved Sporting as well. So in that season, Coates scored 5 goals. I'm pretty sure he scored exactly the same goals as Darwin Núñez did that season, which is, I think it's 5 or 6, and one's a centre back and one's a striker. So that just shows what Amorim was able to do with that team. And Pedro Gonçalves as well, winning the Golden Boot as a midfielder, as a winger, is crazy as well. That season is sort of a miracle. I say sort of a miracle. It was a miracle. No one expected Amorim to win the title after that season. The plan was to have a similar rebuild to sort of what Arsenal have, which was like, okay, we're going to not do very well for a few years. We're going to be maybe 4th, 3rd, and that's when we can kick on, when we keep getting these, these milestones, qualifying for Europa League, trying to go and run the Europa League, trying to go and run the Champions League. But Amorim said, you know what, screw your 4-year plan, 5-year plan, whatever it was, we're going to do it in the first year. And he did that. So, crazy. And then second season, same number of points, 85 points, a record. Not good enough, unfortunately. Porto were just a better team. But in that same season, he done something I never thought I'd see again. Like I said, not the title, but we qualified to the round of 16 of the Champions League for the first time in 10 years. And the last time we did that, I was 9, and we lost 7-1 12-1 on aggregate, to Bayern Munich. And then we never made it again. We had great teams and great players, but just never made it that far again. I was lucky enough to be at that game for Borussia Dortmund. We beat them 3-1. We needed to win by 2 goals to qualify. And Pedro Gonçalves was, again, like I said, a fantastic player. Scores 2 to see us through, and Pedro Porro scores 1 as well. I got to witness a moment in history live, Sporting history live, and Amorim's history. I got to witness that. A Dortmund team with the likes of Bellingham and the likes of Haaland and Emre Can and those guys that were there, and Hummels, who were great players, and Sporting managed to take them down. And that's crazy. That was crazy. We beat Borussia Dortmund to qualify for the next round of the Champions League. Then, of course, we went to watch City and it didn't go too well. We lost 5-0. But it's Man City. I know it's a cop-out answer, but it's true. It was Man City, one of the best teams of all time. So I guess we'll let Amorim off on that one. That season was still a great season nonetheless. I got to witness history. Then the next season, right? So what's this now? 22-23. Awful season for us, right? Finished 4th under Amorim. Get knocked out of the Taça de Portugal to a 4th or 3rd division side. Awful season. Still in the worst season, we went to the Emirates to beat Arsenal on penalties. Another moment I got to witness, I was there. some of you might recognize me, and I'm not just trying to throw this out there. I did the AFTV interview a few years ago with that game. So yeah, maybe some of you recognize me from that. I don't know. But I was lucky enough to witness that. I witnessed that Pedro Gonçalves goal live. Think about how many moments of history in sporting history I've witnessed that I would never expect to see. That goal against Arsenal is something that, God willing, I have kids one day. I can say, listen, son, listen, daughter, look, I witnessed that goal. One of the best goals I've ever seen, full stop, let alone in live. To see that was crazy. And that was due to Amorim's setup of that game. I remember watching that game, and I will say I hated watching penalties that game. I felt so ill, so sick. I just didn't want to watch. It was the most nervous I've been in my life at a football game. But yeah, even still that season, I got to witness, like I said, the Arsenal game. We beat Tottenham, who were currently unbeaten when we played them under Antonio Conte. Paulinho and Renato Gomez winning 2-0 that time for Sporting as well. Beating Frankfurt. Obviously, that Champions League campaign didn't go out too well, but we still, in our worst season, still made the quarterfinals of the Europa League, only getting knocked out to Juventus by the skin of our teeth. But yeah, Amorim's given me so many moments that I will look fondly on. I can tell my future kids, like I said, God willing, if I do have any, that I can tell my kids about. And this is something that's important to me, because when you listen to your parents or anything like that, or any sort of older generation, and they tell you their stories about football. My dad always tells me about Maradona, because he loved watching Maradona, and he tells me, people say Messi and Ronaldo. Maradona's best of all time, because my dad grew up watching Maradona. He tells me stories about how good he was, how good the Sporting in the 90s was, Balakov, players like that, Luis Figo, even sort of the later stages of Portuguese football, when you have the guys like Rui Costa coming in. You've got guys interested in football generally, like Arsenal, like Thierry Henry, Bergkamp, Wenger, like those guys. That's what I get to say to my kids. Maybe not on the same level as that, but I can say to my kids, you know what? I got to witness Amorim make Sporting champions. I got to witness players like Sebastian Coates and Pedro Gonçalves, and guys like right now Victor Gyökeres, who's insane when we look at this season and the season gone. Victor Gyökeres winning a title. I'm not going to say single-handedly, but without him, we don't win that title. Guys like Morten Koeman, guys like Coates in that last season as well, Paulinho in that last season as well, insane. 15, 16 goals in the league, and, just absolute quality. Amorim's made that possible. And, yeah, it's eternal gratitude from me. Eternal gratitude. I would have preferred if he left a different way. I would have preferred maybe if he left at the start of this season before it started, so we had time to prepare. It's awful timing, right? I'm not going to try and label him a traitor or anything like that, which some Sporting fans will. I don't see it that way. I see it, he had a job to do. He did it. Did it well. Too well, even. I don't think anyone expected 2 league titles in, 4.5 seasons. And he got a job he couldn't refuse. Like or not, Manchester United job is one of the biggest in the world, one of the biggest clubs in the world. I am under no doubt about that. I do think we're a big club, of course, but that jump to the Premier League is always going to be tempting for managers. And yeah, Amorim gave me something I never thought I would have. 2 of them, in fact, 2 league titles. I know I said it earlier, but when I say I didn't think we were going to win anything in my lifetime, I hand on heart to say that's 100% true. After that 15-16 season where we just couldn't do it, and there's been so many types of sport in history, we're known as the bottlers of Portugal. I know there's the same sort of thing with Spurs and Arsenal at the moment. Not so much Arsenal, but Spurs. We're like the eternal bottlers. That's what Sporting were until Amorim came in. It's a fact. We bottled titles. We bottled European finals on our home turf, in our home country. We did that. We were the bottlers. Amorim came in and changed an entire identity. We were no longer the bottlers. We were now a powerhouse. We were a team to be messed with. We were a team that was great at selling players for huge fees. People came to Sporting to see players that they could take and get big money for, because Amorim did that. And of course, Varandas, the Sporting president, hiring Amorim was a stroke of genius as well. So the credit has to go there too. But yeah, this is like a breakup, man. A lot of this video will sort of talk more on the emotion side and more than the thinking side of of myself, if that makes sense, more like emotionally speaking than like thinking about it. So a lot of that was off the cuff. I'm not reading a script or anything. This is straight from heart, from head. I'm worried to see what the future holds without Amorim, but I'm also excited. I feel like we've got a good plan in place with João Pereira being the new B team manager. The new A team manager coming from the B team. He knows the club well. Played there for many years. A fan favourite. A favourite of the players as well. So, it'll be interesting to see. But to Ruben Amorim, you're never going to watch this. But thank you for making an entire fan base believe and feel like they can believe in a club. Thank you for the 2 league titles that we had where we didn't think we were going to win any. 19 years out of league title, and Amorim gave us 2 in 4.5 seasons. Crazy stuff. Thank you for all you did for us. Like I said, I wish you left a bit differently. I wish you would have handled yourself a bit better in press conferences towards the end, instead of, one thing I will say about how he sort of handled it, I didn't really like the sort of gimmick-ish he was doing, where he was like being so secretive. When that reporter asked him, "Are you going to be in the dugout at Man United on Sunday?" he said, "No." And the guy said, "Are you sure?" He goes, "I don't know." Haha, laughing like, mate, just say yes or no, or just say no comment. I would have much rather preferred him say, "You know what, it's a legal thing, I can't talk about it, no comment," or, "No comment, I'm here at Sporting for now, things could change, no comment," whatever. But he had to go on a bit. But I digress as well. The last few weeks aren't going to ruin his legacy for me. It might be for other Sporting fans, but the way I see it, he is the greatest manager we've ever had, or at least in my lifetime. It will take a miracle for someone to replicate it. João Pereira has big shoes to fill, but at the end of the day, life goes on. Sporting goes on. We're bigger than one manager. We're bigger than one player. We're a big club, and that's the way we have to look at it. We're going to lose players. We're going to lose managers. It's the way it is. It's how football works. But again, Amorim, thank you for what you did. Appreciate you greatly. I'm sure you're going to do great at Man United as well, if given time. But that's it really. Not much else from me. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. We're about, last time I checked, like 40 subscribers away from 500. So that would be an amazing milestone if I can hit that. And again, thank you all for the positive feedback on the last video and all the nice comments, the likes, the subscribes, everything. It means the world to me, genuinely. Like, I know it's such a thing you hear from like every sort of content creator, but when I woke up and I saw that video got like 4,000 views, it was just like such a great feeling. Obviously, it's not a great feeling to lose your manager, but to see that people viewed that and liked that and watched it is crazy. And I'm eternally grateful. Thank you very much for watching. I will say a second. Make sure you follow me on socials as well. You can also follow the podcast I do at Sporting Related, which is at All Things Double R. That'll be in the description as well. Again, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Peace.